All right, perfect. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and you all should be able to see something that says Mastering Local SEO.
Yes.
I want to give everybody just a quick fair warning up front. I've got like 50 couple slides, and I did my best to pack as much value into this for everyone as I could. The only problem is that I did a test run of this earlier, and when my 1 hour alarm went off, I was only like two-thirds of the way through it. So I don't know how big of a deal it is that this runs long. Maybe like people can go and catch up on the recording. I certainly will do my best to like speed through it, but I don't want anyone to feel like we're like skipping important information. I also am a big fan of Q&A, so if anyone has a question, I would actually rather you ask it like while we're talking about that topic. If you prefer to save it to the end, that is totally fine too. But I don't mind people jumping in the slightest to ask questions like in the middle of the presentation. So with all of that said, we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about mastering local SEO, how to get your business listing in front of potential customers, and also how to rank competitively in SEO. So we kind of already talked about me. We can skip this one, and that's a time saver right off the bat. So SEO, many of you probably already know it's search engine optimization. There's lots of technical ways of describing this and defining this. What I typically say when I'm asked is that it's really just about putting your brand and your website, putting your best foot forward for Google and really for human beings. So it's about presentation more than it is any sort of technical sciencey stuff. It's just about putting your best foot forward. So if you want to win in SEO, you have to do a number of different things. You have to win bots like the Google bot that comes and crawls websites. You also have to win human beings. And you'll notice that I bolded, you have to say, be better and different than your competitors to win bots. I bolded better for bots because better is more of like a science, right? Like if you want to win the bots, it's more scientific. Whereas if you want to win the humans, it's a little less scientific and more like you need to get to know who you're selling to appeal to them. So on the bots end, you can do exactly what your competitors are doing and just do a better job of it, and you'll probably outrank them on SEO. On the human side of things, I think we're all probably aware to some degree that we notice as human beings when something is different. So a big question that Jesse and I will ask new clients at LovelyPixels, we always ask, okay, if I'm a potential customer of yours and I'm deciding between you and your competitor, why should I choose you? And that's an important question. It's like your unique selling proposition. We typically will get answers that are like, well, we have more experience, right? Or we have better quality. But those are sort of throwaway answers that anybody could use. We usually try to push clients to come up with something that is like truly unique to them, that cannot be replaced by the next person that comes to town and opens up a competitive business. So you want to be better and different, primarily better for the bots, different for human beings, so that you get noticed in what is potentially a sea of competition. Something to keep in mind when we're talking about SEO is that Google and all of the other search engines, their primary goal is to provide a positive experience for their users. So the day that we all start going to Google and searching for something and we don't like the results or we can't find what we're looking for is the day that we find another search engine, right? So Google is always when they're trying to decide how to rank you and your competitors, they're always going to choose what is the best user experience for the person that's searching. The last thing I want to say here before we jump into like the how-to stuff is that time is obviously limited for all of us. If you're a business owner, if you're associated with a business in any way, it's very time-consuming stuff. It's almost impossible to think of like how are you going to break off extra time, especially if you're parents, who knows what else. How are you going to break off extra time to do all of this perceived SEO work, right? And what I want to say is that a lot of the things I talk about today, you don't have to do. You only have to do better than your best competitor, right? So you might find that your best competitor posts on Facebook once a week. So maybe you should post twice a week. Now you could post 5 times a week, but what I'm basically saying to you is that you don't have to. You just have to do the best in your area to be at the top of the list. So we're going to talk about three big things today. And the first thing, and what I believe to be the most important if you are trying to get visibility locally, is optimizing your Google business profile. So we'll start by just answering the question, what is a Google business profile? Many of you probably already know, but when you do some sort of search on Google, there is a variety of different types of results. And forgive me, I like to jump in and out and like show things in tabs. So if I jump over here and I just did a search for marketing firm, I can just kind of go through briefly and show you all what the different types of results are. So if I'm looking for a marketing firm, you'll see up here at the top is sponsored. These are the ads. These people are paying to be here. They're paying Google based on keywords, and they are paying for the keyword marketing firm, right? Underneath of that is places or businesses, and this is primarily what we're going to be talking about in the first section of this presentation. So you can see businesses, we have LovelyPixels, we have Mojo Marketing, Marketing Solutions. Once you get under the local results or the places results, that's when you get into what are called organic results. All of these are important for different reasons. To kind of sum it up as quickly as I can, I would say if someone is trying to make a decision that is quick, like you're trying to decide where to have dinner on Friday night with your family, there's a better chance that you're going to use local results, right? Because nobody's driving 3 hours away to a restaurant. If you're looking into something that is more time consuming, like hiring an attorney or maybe trying to pick a home builder because you're about to upgrade into, your second or your third house, that's where people come down into the organic results more because they're more inclined to do research that goes beyond just looking at reviews. So to jump back into the slide deck here, that's a Google business profile. It's exactly the things that you see listed to the side of the map and on the map. So many of you on the call probably already have a Google business profile. You may not be aware of it. You may not have it claimed. You may not have it verified, but Google's pretty good at picking up on when a new business is in the area. So unless one of you just started a business recently, you probably already have one. I'll provide the instructions here for really any case. If you're just getting started, what you want to do is go to google.com/business. And that's going to let you set up your new business. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions like the name of your business and your hours of operation and all of that. And then it'll get you online. If you already have a business online with the same address and the same name, you'll be given an opportunity to say so during this process. So you don't need to worry about like missing something that already exists. Google will find it. So what you should do is go to Google and look for your business first and just see if it comes up. If it does come up, that's great news. You're probably going to see an option down here. If you haven't already claimed the business, it'll say own this business, question mark. Click into that, and then it's basically going to take you through a process where you have to prove that you either own the business or you're associated with it in some fashion, which I'll cover in the next few slides. If you get in and you don't see own this business, that is potentially bad news because that means that probably someone else claimed the business already. We've seen a lot of cases where it's like an ex-employee or an ex-wife or an ex-husband or something like that, and that can get kind of messy. Hopefully, in all of your cases, though, if you haven't already claimed it, it's very easy to claim. You may also click on Own This Business, and it will tell you that someone else already has it, but it'll give you, I think it gives you like the first letter and the last letter of their email address, which can help you identify who that person might be, and then you can reach out to them. So in order to actually get your listing online and all of the changes that you make to it to be public, you have to get your listing verified. And for most people to get it verified, it's just going to be an automated phone call from Google. So Google is going to call the number that is associated with your business, your phone will ring, and then there's going to be a robot voice that says your code is, and it'll give you a 6-digit number. At which point you take that 6-digit number and you plug it into the Google Business Profile interface, and you're all set. You're verified. For some less fortunate folks, particularly like if you have a business that is in a shared office space, like we have one here in town that's called the Hub, where you can go and just rent a single office. That can be a little bit more difficult because as you get up to like 5, 10, 20 businesses that are all claiming to be at the same address, Google starts to raise an eyebrow and say, okay, what's going on here, right? Like, how are there so many businesses at one address? And if that's the case, you may be asked to do a video. It's a bit of a pain, but at the end of the day, it's not terrible. Basically, you get into the process and you have to like walk around with your phone and record a live video. So you start outside, you have to show like the signage on the building and then walk inside, show the front desk, show your office, and then usually Google is okay with it. They're trying to protect themselves against people setting up fake listings and fake businesses, which does happen. So a quick note on Google Business Profiles. Some of you may have businesses that you do not want to share your home address because you don't want people just showing up and, this isn't where you're actually doing your business. Like maybe if you're a plumber or an electrician and you don't have an office, you just go and you help people at their homes or their businesses. You're not forced to publish your address on Google, just so you're aware. You do have to share an address, but if you tell Google that you are a service area address, meaning that you go and serve customers at their location, it won't publicize your address. The other thing that's important to note is that you can actually set by appointment only. So it'll ask you for hours of operation. You could say, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever it is, but you can check a box that says by appointment only, which will help protect you against people just like showing up at your house at, 5 o'clock at night when you're trying to cook dinner or whatever it is. The only downside, if you're not willing to share your address, in my experience, you're going to get a little less value SEO wise than you are a business that is willing to share where they're located. Google just tends to favor a place where they can put the pin on the map instead of like this example at the right where they're showing the service area. So in order to get the most out of your Google Business Profile, my advice here is very simple. It's just to fill out every possible field that you can. Don't leave anything blank, and you're already going to be doing better than a lot of your competition. So you're going to have an opportunity to provide a business description, again, your hours of operation, your service areas, and lots of other things. Fill out everything that you possibly can, and that's going to be a win for you and your business. There's also, depending on what kind of business you represent or own, there's going to be other options that are exclusive to you. And I just included a few examples here that come to mind. If you have a hotel or an Airbnb, you will be given the opportunity to share amenities. Like if you have a big screen TV in the rooms, you can put that on Google. Another example is restaurants. You can actually populate items from your menu, which we'll talk about again shortly. So TLDR, just fill out all of the fields the best you can. So now that we've talked about the actual process of creating this listing or claiming this listing, I want to get into how Google actually determined the rankings for these things. And it's based primarily on three big things. One is relevance, one is proximity, and one is prominence. Aside from those three things, there's also a lot of hidden signals in the background that Google doesn't talk about as publicly. Those are mainly based around human interaction, which we'll get to that also. So I want to take the time to go through each of these individually and talk about them. The first one is relevance, and you can all probably guess what that is. It's basically how closely does the person's search match with what your business offers. If there's an exact match, you've got a really good chance at ranking. The good news is that you have a high degree of influence over this. So I'm going to go through examples of things that you can do to improve your relevance, to get your ranking higher than what it is. And this is sort of on a spectrum too. It's important to keep that in mind. So if you have someone that goes to Google and they're looking for tennis shoes, and you sell tennis shoes and only tennis shoes, you're going to be super relevant for that search. If you have a shoe store that sells lots of different types of shoes, well, you're also relevant. You're just not perfectly relevant. And if you sell hiking boots, then you're relevant in the sense that you both, one person's looking for shoes and you sell shoes, but there's not really a whole lot of relevance there. So this is a list of things that relevance can be influenced by on your Google Business Profile, and even outside of your profile. I'm going to take you through each of them. I have a dedicated slide or two for each of these. I did want to do a call out on this slide for, again, referring to different business types having different types of fields that are only appearing for them. If we follow the restaurant example, if you take the time to populate your menu on your Google Business profile, it can actually help your relevance around those items because someone like it might be a Friday night and I'm hungry for a steak, right? And so I go to Google and I say like steaks near me or best steaks near me. If someone has taken the time to put steak on their menu on Google Business profile, they have a better chance of showing up than the restaurant that serves steak but didn't take the time to put it on their menu for Google Business profile. So it's worth your time to fill out these fields. So we'll run through each of these just briefly. The first one, of course, is your business name. There aren't really any tricks here. I recommend just running with your legal business name. Now, a lot of times, you set a legal business name and then you find out later how SEO works and you sort of regret your business name, right? Because you're like, why didn't I call it this? There would have been something better to call it. I included an example below of probably what you shouldn't do. This was just one that I found in closer to our area here in Martinsburg. This is a community, and they're claiming that the name of their business is Pennsylvania at 3rd Street Crossing, a place encouraging community connection. I haven't actually gone and like checked into this, but I'm pretty sure that's not the name of the community. I think they added a little extra to maybe help with click-through rate, right? Because it sounds nice and you see this and, well, yeah, that sounds like a great place to live. I'm going to look into this. The problem is that it could ultimately hurt your rankings. And then click-through rate, like how many people are actually going to click this, doesn't matter because nobody's seeing it. It could also get your listing suspended because all it really takes is Google or one of your competitors to say, hey, they're trying to game the system. They can turn you in, and then your listing gets suspended. And while you're trying to get it unsuspended, you're losing who knows how much business. I just included here a couple of examples of businesses with good names versus businesses with names that could get you suspended. So in the case of a venue, if you tried to tack event venue onto the end, that could get you in trouble. If you're trying to put keywords in, definitely could get you in trouble. Near me, if you're trying to include the name of the town and the town is actually not in your business name, it could get you in trouble. All of these at the left, totally acceptable business names. I want to do a special call out for the venue which is a venue in downtown Martinsburg that just recently is opening up. They basically have, in my opinion, like the perfect business name because if someone is looking for a venue, there is a perfect relevance match between the service that they're looking for and the name of the business. And so it's going to be very difficult for other businesses to rank better than the venue. So the next thing is categories. This one's really important, and it's a big part of how Google connects relevance between your brand and what you actually offer. So when you're setting up your categories, search through all of them. Make sure that you are picking the best one. You are allowed to pick multiple. You can pick like 4 or 5. The only downside that I've seen is that it seems to dilute your listing a little bit. If you try to say that we do 4 or 5 different things instead of one thing, you won't rank as well as the person who just does the one thing. And I included examples over here at the right just to help illustrate this. So if you're a home builder in the area, these are all categories that could potentially fit you. And I could see where, your average home builder type goes in and says, yeah, I'm a general contractor and I'm a construction company and I'm a real estate developer and I'm a custom home builder. But putting all of those things in could actually hurt you more than what you think. You might think that you're casting a wider net, but it could actually do more harm than good. So whenever possible, just pick the one category that fits you best. So moving on to content, this is a big one. This has a big impact. I don't think a lot of people realize this has a big impact over how you're actually going to rank on Google business profiles, particularly the page that you have chosen to link to from your Google business profile listing. The content on that page matters a lot. So I just have an example here, Abolitionist Aleworks. Whatever this website link goes to, Google is going to go and crawl through it and understand all of the words and everything that's being said, and then use that information to make a determination about how they should rank your business versus every other business and how that connects to the relevance of what the person is actually searching for. So I've done some experimentation in the past. I would recommend if you all are struggling with ranking that you do the same. On average, I would say a business will usually just link to their homepage, but you could potentially increase your ranking just by linking to a different page that is more relevant. A homepage is tough because a homepage has to often be about a number of different things. Whereas you could have a landing page, right? To go back to the example of tennis shoes, you could send a link to a page that is all about tennis shoes, and then the relevance between what the person's looking for and what is on your website page is way more than what your competitors are doing. And you might find that if you do that, your ranking improves. I also wanted to touch on reviews. I'm sure everyone here would agree that the more positive reviews you get, the better. And that's phenomenal for your rankings. It's absolutely a part of it. The part that I want to concentrate on is that the actual words in your rankings or the words in your reviews matter. So if you can have someone come on and leave a review that includes keywords and includes your location, that in my book is the perfect review because it helps create relevance between you, your service, and your location. This over here at the right is an example, sort of in the law firm realm of things. I believe this is like a great review because this person's saying if you're looking for a professional, caring, and attentive law firm being the keyword, and we'll get to keywords here in a few minutes, in Martinsburg. So you have the keyword and the location, and it's all coming from a reviewer. That's huge for relevance. So I know it's not always possible for business owners to like coach people to leave reviews of certain types, but if you have friends and family, if you have clients that you're particularly close with, the words in the reviews matter. I included another example here. Again, let's go back to like the restaurant example, right? And the steak example. One review, if a person leaves a review and they say that the milkshakes at your restaurant are excellent, that could actually help you rank for milkshakes. Because even if there are 3 or 4 other places in town that sell milkshakes, that one review that mentions milkshakes means that a person searching for milkshakes, that's going to be relevant to that review and to your business. Another just like tidbit here on reviews, you may have noticed when you are looking for a service provider in the area that certain words get bolded in the reviews. And I would pay extra close attention to what words are getting bolded. This is another example from a law firm. You see that it's bolding staff, people, office staff, speeding ticket, and outcome. Those are all words that Google considers to be important and relevant to that type of business. So again, the things in the reviews matter. If you have any control whatsoever over how people are leaving reviews for you, there's a lot of power in that. So there's a few other quick things that you can do on your Google business profile to help with people seeing you and your rankings. One is posts. You can actually go and post updates from your business. You can post events that may be coming up at your business. You can post promotions, like if you're going to do 10% off for the next week or whatever it is, you can post all of that to Google. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. It's no different than Facebook or Instagram or any other place that you're probably already posting as a business owner. You should also post to Google because it helps, again, build that relevance web of you and your services and what people are looking for. I will say also, in my experience, the you don't need to like worry too much about your posts being perfect. So don't sit and spin your wheels for like an hour or two trying to come up with the perfect post. It's actually more important that you just get the post out and that you continue to get the posts out again and again and again over time. If your competitor is not posting at all and you're posting once a week, like that's a huge difference for Google. So start posting and then just keep it up. And then another item, I don't think a lot of people are even know that these exist, but Google supports Q&A. You all may have seen them online before for your business or other businesses, but it's an opportunity for any person with a Google account basically to ask a question of the business or about the business. Charlestown Lock and Key, I just pulled an example here because I thought they did a good job of responding to their questions. Someone asked, can you guys do motorcycle keys? They responded, yes, we can. I'm open tomorrow if you want to stop by. It's really that simple. Now, where the trick comes in here is that you as a business owner, there is nothing against Google's terms of service that prevents you from going in and actually pre-populating these FAQs and Q&As. So if you all typically get phone calls and you're hearing a lot of the same questions again and again, like, can I bring a dog to your establishment? Or where should I park? Or whatever it is, you can actually pre-populate that information in these Q&As for people. and you can provide the question and the answer so that you have the perfect iteration of both. It's also important, just while we're talking about Q&As, that you all pay close attention to these because there's nothing worse than someone asking a question and then someone else from the community answering it. If it's the correct answer, it's not terrible, but it may look a little bad that like the business isn't being responsive and answering the questions. Also, it's horrible if the person responds and the answer is just flat out wrong, right? Like someone asks, when do they open, or are they open on President's Day? And someone says no, but you actually are. So this is just a good thing for you to pay attention to. So that wraps up relevance. I want to talk about proximity next, but I did want to pause. Did anybody have any questions about any of that relevant stuff, or are we good to keep moving?
I have a quick question. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at mine. I don't see where Q&As are. So do you have to initiate a first Q&A for that block to pop up?
No, it should show up for you. Are you looking at your own business or are you looking at another
My
business?
but I'm
Okay.
looking at my phone, so I wonder if that also makes a difference.
It's possible that it does. I mean, a lot of these things are specific to like individual users and devices, but there should be something that pops up. I'm trying to find it on ours, and maybe it's not going to show for me either, but
Hmm.
usually it sits right
It's
in here.
it's on the desktop, but it's not on the phone.
Okay. That would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
Um, and if this is too in the weeds, I'm good for like pushing this question aside. But my business is very closely named to another business that's not anywhere near me. We're called Dollinger Farm, and there's Dollinger Family Farm that's in Illinois. And when I first got my site and got everybody would say, "Oh, you have pumpkins." I'm thinking we have everything but pumpkins. like we are not the Dollinger Family Farm in Illinois that has the pumpkins. Since then, things have got much better as far as like my SEO and but right now, and I check my Google profile pretty regularly, not all the time, but look, and I just checked it when you had mentioned it, and I see that Google AI has a great description of my farm, but one of the pictures they have featured is from the other farm. You know what I mean? Like it's the wrong picture for
Right.
my farm. So is that something that like I could reach out to? Like, how do I get that corrected? Because some of the pictures are all of the other pictures are correct.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a tough one because the Google AI stuff is still very much in beta. It may not
Okay.
say that, but they're still trying to figure all of that out. The fact that the AI got it wrong though is like that's a pretty good signal that you have a real problem there, right? Because if the AI gets it wrong, like it's only natural that human beings are going to get it wrong, especially if the photos being used are incorrect. There isn't really, Google is sort of notorious for being impossible to reach. There are like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're running local services ads or if you're running Google ads, you can reach out to them and talk to a human being. It got particularly bad after COVID where you just can't reach them. So there isn't really any one place that you can go for that. What I would do in your shoes is look into that specific photo and find out where it's being sourced from. It's
Okay.
possible that someone, I've actually seen this happen before. I don't know why it happens, but someone has uploaded a photo to your Google business profile, like as a user, and it has incorrect information in it. Like maybe someone was confused and thought that you two were the same thing, and the photo got uploaded. Other than
Oh.
that, there's not a ton that you can do, unfortunately. I would just look into the photo and see where it's actually coming from.
Okay, yeah, I had trouble at the beginning because that farm is just seasonal. You know, they're only open 1 month a year or whatever.
Right.
And I'm open all the time. And so, but I'm a good bit past that. Um, and I had another question about the Q&A. If somebody does ask a question, does Google like notify me like through my email, like, hey, there's a question on your site, or is it something I have to patrol?
I believe you'll get a notification in the same way that
Okay.
you will when you get a review. So you
Okay.
probably get an email that says like you just got a 5-star review, and then you have an opportunity to go and respond to it. I'm pretty sure
Yep.
Q&A is the same.
Okay.
I'm not aware of there being any like switches that you can flip on and off. But
Okay.
yeah, you should get an email whenever someone asks that. With that said, Google's not perfect either, so it wouldn't hurt like to just set a note to check it from time to time. Uh,
Right.
because yeah, again, the worst thing is when like someone outside of your business offers the wrong answer.
Yeah, yeah, understood, understood. And I see in the chat the recommendation to start growing pumpkins. Um, Maybe someday. I mean, I'm like into a lot of other things, so yeah, that would be a good thing too. But thank you, I appreciate it. Sorry.
Yep, you're welcome.
And I just looked at
So
my page and we had a whole bunch of we had like 5 questions that were unanswered or answered by other people, even though it was maybe a few years ago. I went through and answered anyway. I'm assuming that that's still fine. Is like you find a question, even if it was from a few years ago, still answering it is better than not, right?
yeah, that's totally fine. I don't think that most people are going to notice really that the answer came in 5 years after the question. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's kind of the same thing with reviews. I always recommend that people respond to all reviews, whether they're positive or negative. And even if it's a review from 6 months ago, it's probably better that you respond than just leave it alone.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. So
I
the
have a
next,
question. Oh.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. So with relevance, so I work at Smallwood and Small Insurance, and within the last year, we took over 2 other locations, another one in Martinsburg and then one in Charlestown. I did take over those Google pages. I have access to all of that. For all 3 of them. I've updated the names. I mean, obviously, like their address, phone number, that stayed the same. I updated the websites, like all the information to match our main location. So we're now all as one. I don't know if it's just because of my search history and things like that, but it seems like, I guess when I go to search those locations, sometimes it pulls up, sometimes it doesn't. Like I can still type in their old agencies' names and then they'll pull up that way. I mean, obviously it'll show now small and small, but like I don't know if it's just the trouble of me looking on my phone or the computer since I'm always accessing them and running those pages, but
We ran into a lot of that at Thompson Gas because Thompson Gas would frequently buy other companies, right? And sometimes they keep their brand name, but other times they would like adopt the brand name of whatever we were running in that area. And I can
mhm,
tell you that it takes time. It generally takes a good bit of time. It's also
okay,
a bit of a pain because Google has tons of sources of information from all around the World Wide Web. I'm sure that if you go and look for the name of that old firm that you all purchased, either one of them, you'll probably be able to find places like in the darkest corners of the web where it still says the name of the old business and the address. And so, what I would recommend to you is to try and search around and clean those up the best you can. So,
okay,
sometimes that's like claiming a listing on some other website. Sometimes that's like contacting the right person. Sometimes that's creating a new business listing with the same address to just make the old one go away. But until you can clean that up, it's very confusing for Google and other search engines to understand, like, well, what is actually here? There's also, I would say, like the flip side of that is that it's actually beneficial to a degree because I think what Google's trying to do is like if you search for the name of the old agency or the old firm, they want to be able to lead people to like what the new firm is, right?
right, which
I don't
makes
really
sense.
think it's a bad thing in all cases that you show up, but it can be annoying. And I would just say go and try to clean up all of the listings from the old businesses, and you'll eventually see that go away and get cleared up.
Okay, just a matter of time. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before we get to proximity? Good. All right, so this is the second of the 3 things that Google Business Profiles are looking into for like how to actually decide how you rank. And again, proximity is probably exactly what you're guessing it is. It's the distance between the person that's searching and your business. So proximity can often feel like a curse, right? Because you're like, why did I open my business in this part of town? when all of these other businesses in downtown are outranking me. It doesn't have to be a curse, and we'll get into ways that you can kind of combat this. If you imagine the flip side of like if proximity didn't exist on search, then you would look for a pizza place and you would get results in California, which would be a total nightmare. So proximity has to exist. And the closer that the searcher is to the business, the more credit that that business is going to get in rankings. So, unfortunately, this is not something that you can influence as easy as you can relevance. It's going to take a little bit more effort than that. And you can't just pick your business up and move it unless you're a food truck. I don't know, maybe someone has a food truck, but most people can't just pick up and move to be like closer to the center of town at a moment's notice. So these are some just quick tips of ways that you can have a positive influence on proximity. I always recommend that people mention locations on their website whenever possible to just help create that sphere of proximity between your location, whatever town you're located in, and then maybe nearby towns. Or it doesn't even really have to be towns. It could be landmarks. It could be other businesses, right? You might say that we're located just down the street from the casino, or we're right next to such and such. And all of those mentions are going to help Google understand where you're at, and it can actually help you in proximity. Another thing I always recommend is to add driving directions to your website from any locations that you are trying to rank in. This might feel, and I understand, this might feel like something from 10 or 20 years ago, right? Where like we would print directions out and then flip through them in our vehicles. I'm sure that still exists to a certain degree, but the main reason you're doing this is for SEO. Because if you are, like, let's say that you have a business in Charlestown, right? And there is a competitor in Harpers Ferry, then I would recommend that you go to your website and you add directions from Harpers Ferry, like written out directions from Harpers Ferry to Charlestown, because the more people that actually come, the better that you're going to rank. And if Google comes to the website and reads Harpers Ferry, you're listing it for a totally legitimate reason. They're going to understand that, oh, okay, Harpers Ferry people do business with this Charlestown business. So totally add directions. You can do from the north, from the south, from the west, from the east, or by town. I always recommend doing it by town. You should also set up service areas whenever possible in your Google Business Profile. We already touched on those. It's just important that you set them up. It will support counties. It'll support towns. It supports zip codes. Again, I always recommend you go with towns. That just seems to be the way that people search. I don't think a lot of people search for like an electrician in 21740, right? They're looking for an electrician in their town. I also recommend whenever you can do it and it feels natural to use the near me language. People looking for businesses near them has been on the rise since probably 2016, 2017. And if you can come up with a way to put that on your website, it will help you. We did it at Thompson Gas. Like if you're a business owner and you have multiple locations, then you could have a search function on your website that says like, find a branch near me, right? And then it's just a map that shows your 3 or 4 pins or whatever you have. Just that little mention of near me alone will help you with proximity and also with relevance. And then the last tip is really if you can just provide a great service and you can wow your customers and convince people to drive to you from further away locations, that's all that you need to do to win the proximity game. Especially if they go to your Google Business Profile and they request directions and then come and visit you. That is worth a ton in the proximity game. I included a little donut emoji here because I just wanted to share briefly that I have a favorite donut shop. It's in Hagerstown, Maryland. It's called Crumpy's. I don't know if anybody knows Crumpy's. But if I sit here in my Martinsburg, West Virginia office and I look for just best donuts, for example, it actually brings up Crumpy's second. And Home Run Donuts first, and both of them are in Hagerstown. The reason I share this is because you shouldn't let yourself get intimidated by proximity. Proximity is not everything. There's more to it than that. So I go to Crumpy's because they're the best donuts around, in my opinion, and I am absolutely driving past 4 or 5 other donut options on my way to get Crumpy's. So if you can convince people to do the same by offering a great service, a great product, wowing your customers, then proximity doesn't matter as much. So prominence is next. Any quick questions on proximity before we keep moving forward? Good. All right. So prominence is the third item, and that basically boils down to how well known your brand is and your business. You can also influence it. It does take time. This is more of like a long drawn out process. Just to give a couple of examples here, I have a photo of Winchester because there's so many Starbucks there. But Starbucks is more prominent than sibling coffee roasters. So we might prefer sibling coffee roasters. We might prefer Black Dog Coffee, right? But at the end of the day, Starbucks has more prominence because they're just a bigger brand. And so that's something that we have to figure out how to combat whenever we're ranking in SEO. So prominence, of course, has a number of things that it can be influenced by. The first thing here that I always recommend is always be seeking opportunities to get more links to your website, because the more links that come to you, the bigger that you appear to be as a brand for Google. Lots of examples here, right? You could do press releases. Those are always great if you have like news to share. If you join any sort of local groups, chamber organizations, a lot of them will link to you. Any of your social media sites, you can offer to write guest blogs. If there are like neutral third-party people in your area, you could write an article for them, and then you can link back to your website from there. There's also some paid services, or if you just know the right person at like a local news organization, you could ask them to write an article about you and your brand and then link to your website. That pays off massively if you can do that. You could also just partner with other businesses in your area if you have friends that own businesses, and make an agreement that you're going to be willing to talk about one another on your website and on your social media. Maybe you can come up with a clever way of, visit this place and then visit this place and get 10% off, or pick up your coupons here, whatever it is. But a lot of prominence is just like who you know, right? And who Google understands that you know. So there's loads of directories online. They're easy to find. Just go look for like Charlestown Business Directory or West Virginia Business Directory, and make sure that your business listing gets into all of them. I list NAP here. That is just short for name, address, and phone number. So it's important to make sure that the name of your business, your address, and your phone number are identical everywhere that you put these listings. But absolutely go and do that. If you can get it into like 10 or 20 new places, I think you'll see it pay off. Again, we touched on reviews. The more reviews that you get, the better for your prominence. And I'll actually touch on a detail of that here in just a moment. Your organic rankings, if you remember, we were looking at the types of rankings in the beginning. The better that you rank organically, the more prominent that you are in Google's eyes. So we're also going to talk about how you can improve your organic rankings in the next section. And then, of course, the answer that nobody wants to hear, if you open multiple branches or locations, you can actually have a positive impact on your prominence. So a quick note on reviews. I know we touched on those in relevance when we were talking about the words in the reviews, but when it comes to prominence, who is reviewing you also matters. So a review from someone that maybe didn't plug in a real name and they don't have a profile picture, and they've only left 3 reviews ever, that review is not worth nearly as much as a review from a local guide, which many of you might know what a local guide is. Like the more reviews you leave, the more that you can sort of like rank up through local guides. So Jasmine Mitchell here is a great example. She's left 77 reviews. She's uploaded almost 200 photos. A review from her is worth a lot more than a review from a person that just left a review to say that the food was cold, or, whatever it is. So this is like what I would call a bit of an SEO like knowledge bomb in a way. I don't think you all will find anybody else talking about this anywhere. So this is one of the things that you should absolutely like go and experiment with. There are things on Google's Google search engine called search operators, which are basically like, I'm telling Google to do something very specific. I'm not just searching. I want them to bring me very specific results. And there is an operator called OR. The OR operator is pretty simple. I pulled up an example for you all to see here. So if I type in Coca-Cola or Pepsi, what it's going to do is actually give me results that are about one thing or the other. And on the surface, that seems like it's not really of that much value, right? Like, why would you ever want to search for more than one thing? The value actually comes from the fact that by searching for two different things on the Google search engine, we are allowed to peek behind the curtain at how prominence works. Because by searching for two different things, relevance is no longer a factor. We're searching for things that are relevant to Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but then we have to look at these results and say, how is Google determining how to rank these, right? Because Coca-Cola is relevant to Coca-Cola and Pepsi is relevant to Pepsi. How are they deciding to rank them? The answer is the prominence of the brand. And so if you start scrolling through this, and all of you can do this as well, do it. I would recommend you do it with your website, do it with your brand name, maybe compare yourself to a competitor or two and just see what you get back. But if Pepsi hired me and they said like, we need to catch up to Coca-Cola, what I would do is start scrolling through here and finding the entities online where Coca-Cola outranks Pepsi, and then I would put my effort there. So we're seeing here that the Coca-Cola Instagram ranks much better than the Pepsi Instagram, which we haven't even seen yet. So I would say, let's put time and resources into Instagram to push our Instagram up to then on the whole have a bigger prominence than Coca-Cola. So that's kind of a fun exercise you can do. You just type in whatever you're looking for, or, and then like a competitor or something else. And there's lots of little silly examples you can do. You could do like apples or oranges or, whatever you want to. But it's going to let you see an example of how Google actually weighs your prominence versus your competition. So after doing all of that, if you're still getting outranked and you're frustrated, that's where it gets into like the human element of this that I mentioned in the very beginning. So the more clicks, the more calls, the more directions requests that you're getting on your Google business profile, the more that you are likely to continue to get in the future. So if you can come up with a clever way to get people to interact with your listing, it will pay off for you. And I have some examples here. There's an example that I ran with a few law firms back when I was working primarily with attorneys a number of years ago. And what I would recommend to them is that they do a canned food drive like once or twice a year. So a canned food drive is a great idea for a number of reasons. One, it makes your business and your brand look great in the community. Number two, it helps the community, right? Number three, it's going to drive a big influx of people into your Google business profile that are going to be clicking on your website, requesting directions, and they're actually going to be driving to your location to deliver canned goods. And then you'll take the canned goods and take them to the local shelter or wherever it is that you're going to donate to. So it's like a win-win-win situation. Everybody wins, and it's clever because it works, and you might run one canned food drive and find that you outrank two more competitors just because of that influx of traffic. So a couple of experiments that I've done that I would recommend that all of you do if you're struggling with ranking. You could experiment with sending social traffic to your Google business profile. Instead of like making a post on your Facebook, right, that says, go and learn more here, usually you send people to the homepage. Instead of doing that, try sending them to your Google business profile once or twice and just see what happens to your ranking. You could also experiment with linking people to your Google business profile after you've searched for a keyword. And this gets a little technical, so I'll show just like an example of what I'm talking about. If I just looked for sports store in Martinsburg as an example. You can see up here at the top that Google, whenever I'm doing this search, it's actually adding my search query into the URL. So google.com/search, and then my query was sports store, Martinsburg, West Virginia. After typing in that search, I'm making the conscious decision to click on full throttle racing and sports. And now if I copy this link and I share it to someone else, then that reads to Google as someone who did exactly what I did. They went to Google, they searched for a sports store, and they made the conscious decision to interact with my listing. So you can see when I paste it in here, it comes up, it immediately goes to full throttle racing and sports. So my recommendation would be try sharing that link instead of just the link to your website or the share link that you typically would, like the shortened thing here, the g.co. And then another experiment you could do, any place that you have an opportunity to link to yourself, your social media accounts, like if you have a YouTube and you have YouTube videos, put links to your Google business profile in your video description. Why not? I've done it plenty of times in the past and it helps rankings. So any opportunity you have to link to your Google business profile, take it. And I would just include here, if all else fails, run some ads. There's nothing wrong with running ads, and you can often run ads for like a short period of time, and they will continue to pay you in dividends after you stop the ads. And the reason for that, again, is the human interaction thing. If you run ads on Google local services, or if you run ads on local, then what is going to happen is that you'll go to the top of results and then you're naturally going to see more interaction, more clicks, more calls, which is great for your business. It's also great for your ranking because now Google sees that you are getting more activity. More people are becoming aware of your brand. You're going to get more repeat customers. And even when the ads go away, I think a lot of you will find that you'll continue to get benefit from it. The last thing I'll say, if you're outranked and you're frustrated, and this is a big one, which we'll touch on later, start looking at your listing and the listing that is at the top of results and making comparisons and just figure out what am I doing differently than them and what are they doing differently than me, and try experimenting with doing things a little more like them, but better. And again, we'll talk about that more in the last step. So that wraps up Google Business Profiles. If there's no questions about that, we're going to go into talking about content. So 80% of SEO, I would say, is just writing good content. So if you can write, you can do SEO. Again, it's not this intimidating thing. It's not some crazy science. If you can write good content, you can probably rank. The other 20% of that effort is really goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's about putting your best foot forward. It's about presentation and taking the content that you've written and making sure that Google sees it in the best possible light. So there's, again, forgive me, I keep jumping out of the slides here, but there's another search operator that I'll show you. It's just site colon. So if you type in site colon and then the name of your website, what that's going to do is give you all results that only come from your website. And the reason why you would do this is to find out how big your footprint is in the eyes of Google. So you type in site colon, the name of your website, and then you go up here and click on tools. And you can see I just searched for LovelyPixels, and Google is aware of 300 to 400 pages of us for a footprint. So the reason why that's important is because if Google has to make the decision between ranking you or your competitor first, then I'm sure you can probably guess which one they're going to prefer, right? If you have 400 pages and your competitor has 20, Google's going to take the bigger offering in most cases because Google understands that there is this whole sphere of relevance around that. And there must be a whole lot of experience and a whole lot of expertise for someone to be able to sit down and write 400 articles. So essentially, the TLDR is like write more, right? So a couple of important parts of content. One is cadence. You should be writing regularly. Try and write and release on a regular schedule. The reason why that's important is because the Google bot comes and checks your website and indexes it. And if it finds that nothing is new, then it decides next time that it's not going to come back for longer. If it shows up to your website and you have something new, then next time it's going to come back in a shorter period of time. So maybe it's a month, right? But then you wrote a new article and they say, well, next time I'm going to come back in 3 weeks because it seems like they're starting to update their website. You want to try and get that crawl rate as high as possible because it is absolutely connected to how well you're going to rank in search results. So write, post, do it regularly, and try your best to stay on a schedule. To go back to what I said about time in the beginning, I know time is limited, so you don't need to shoot for the stars on this one. You just need to do better than your competition. So if your competition posts 1 new piece a month, maybe you should post 2 pieces a month or 1 piece a week. The length is also important. There is tons of articles on the web that don't rank for anything, and they're only like 200 words long or 250 words long. It's just not enough. What I recommend to anybody who's writing their own content is try for 500 words, but then step away from your article and revisit it with a fresh set of eyes. chances are you can tell more of the story, right? You just need fresh eyes to realize it. A lot of you might be thinking, well, I do XYZ and that's very simple and I can't write 2,000 words about it. I would challenge you and say you probably can. You just need to think about it in a different light, right? Like approach it from a different perspective or a different angle. Write as much as you can. Google has a tendency to favor more full and complete content than the short scraped stuff. And of course, this probably goes without saying, but it's important that your content is original. Don't try and steal content from anyone else. Google will be onto you pretty much right away if you do it, because they can see that the person you took it from had the content posted in, 2009, and it got added to your website in February of 2025. You're not going to get away with it, so don't try. Google's also getting pretty darn good at recognizing AI-powered writing, so I would use AI very carefully if you're already using it, and make sure that you get some human touch in there, or else it's not even going to be worth the time to have the AI writing generated. So that naturally begs the question that a lot of you are probably already thinking, what am I supposed to write about? It's very easy for me to tell you to write more. It's difficult to figure out what you should actually be writing about. And that's where we get into keywords. So keywords, you all probably have heard of these in the realm of SEO. Keywords are the things that people are typing into the search engines that the service providers are actively trying to rank for. Mine, the one that I typically use is the Google Ads Keyword Planner. There's plenty of options out there that are free and paid. The Google Ads Keyword Planner, I can just show you here briefly. So if you go into Google Ads, if you have an active account, you can go into Tools and then go to Planning and go to Keyword Planner. And if you go into either Discover New Keywords or Get Search Volume, both of those will give you probably what you're looking for. I'll just run an example here. So I'll look for a swimming pool and get results. And Google is going to give me tons of keywords. So they gave me 637 ideas that are related to swimming pools. And maybe some of these I've thought of, maybe some of them I haven't. And what's great here is that it will actually give you data on how many people are looking for these things every month. So in addition to that, it'll give you an idea of competition and then how much that has changed over time. So usually what I try to look for is a keyword that has a high number of monthly searches, a lower or a medium competition, and then something that's trending up. Because as we all know, in our language, words come and go, like things trend and things go away. I would try to look for something that is trending up. So you can see that Pool Companies Near Me is trending up 49% in the last 3 months, and year over year, it's trending up 22%. So I might be inclined to say, I want to go after that keyword, right? So once you have picked out some keywords that you like using one of those tools, really the next step is to take those and then use a different set of tools to figure out what you're going to write about. So this is just a short list of a few of the ones that I use. Probably my favorite one is called Answer the Public, which I just have an example here on the right. And sorry, I just realized I'm not full screen, so I apologize if any of you were squinting. So this is an example of me going and getting content ideas about swimming pools again. And you can see here, you might have to turn your head a little bit, but what this tool does is it's giving you common questions that are being asked around your keyword. So questions that start with are, can, how, what, when, where, which. And if you turn and look at some of them, you can see, well, that's an idea. I can go and write a blog about that, or I can write an article about that. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is to be the person that answers the question, right? If someone goes to Google and they're researching swimming pools and you sell swimming pools and you can answer their question, then there's going to be a good chance you're going to get them as a customer. So use tools like this. I actually have that pulled up as well. If anybody wanted to see me run an example, maybe at the end of the call. But yeah, you can type in a keyword here and then it spits out just loads of ideas for you to go and write about. So the last thing I'll say on content is that it's important, especially now, that you share who authored the content. So don't just post it as like, posted by admin on February 17th. You should actually share the name of the person that wrote the content and share a little bit about them, put their headshot on there. The reason why is because I'm seeing Google slowly move away from keywords and into what I call like entity-based SEO, which is more of, when I say entity, I mean like basically a noun, right? Like a person, place, or thing. So this is an example on our website of something that John King wrote. He's one of our marketing people on the team. And so what Google is seeing is that there's this great piece of content. It's written by a real human being, and Google can go and look into John King and find his LinkedIn and find all of the things that he is associated with and realize that this content should be favored more so than what some other website who posted AI powered content by admin or, whatever user because it's legitimate and John King has experience and he has expertise. Therefore, the content is likely to be good. So that moves us to the final thing that I want to share with you today, which gets into your website. And this is all about optimizing and organizing your website to rank well and get in front of people. And I know we're a little past an hour, so I just wanted to do a time check. I'm good to keep going if people that want to stick around on the call are good to keep listening for a little longer. So I'm just going to burn through some really quick tips here. And maybe you guys have heard about a lot of these things, but these are all things that I have seen through my own personal experience that will help you rank for the thing that you want to rank for. So once you've gone through that process that we just did, where you're searching for keywords, you're searching for things to write about, and okay, 90,000 people every month look for this keyword. I want a piece of that action, right? I want to rank for that keyword. So once you have that keyword, most important place for you to put it is in your meta title. That is like if you're hovering over your tabs here on the names of websites, that's the meta title. And usually if you have a WordPress site, it's pretty easy to set the title. It's just equal to the name of the page. So get your keyword into the title. It's the most important place. Probably the second most important place in my experience is the URL. And again, sorry for all the jumping around. This is the URL up here at the top. So if it's like, lovelypixels.com/graphic design, that's the URL. You want to get the keyword into there because it's really important. There's also header tags that you all may or may not be aware of. There's an H1 and then it goes all the way to H6. Try and get your keyword into your header tags on your website. Also try to get your geography in there if you can. Like if you're a Charlestown business or a Martinsburg business or whatever it is, try and list that in your header. You can also include your keyword in your meta description. There's a little bit of benefit there, mainly from a click-through rate perspective, not so much SEO. I always recommend too that your keyword is in the first sentence or at least the first paragraph of your page. It's okay to mention it a few times throughout whatever the page is. You should use variations whenever possible. So don't always just put verbatim your keyword. Google is smart enough to see what you're doing. I always say sound natural. So don't try to just shove it in there for the sake of doing it. Sound natural, but don't be afraid to mention your keyword a few times. And then I usually also, if you have an opportunity to, bold your keyword, include it in a bulleted list. Just get it into lots of different places throughout the page where you want to rank. So this one is a big one. Don't try to make a page about more than one keyword. If your business offers 5 different services, you need 5 pages for that. Don't put all 5 services on one page. Now you can have you can have a top level page, right, that links people out to those services. But as far as ranking goes, you're going to have a much easier time ranking one page for one thing than one page for 5 things. So try and organize your site based on your services and one keyword per page. We already touched on the length of content, so just make sure you're doing a good job, like really educating the reader without fluffing. The more images, generally, the better. Google loves multimedia. People love multimedia. So put images on your page. File names matter too. So I think a lot of people, they go out with their digital camera, their phone, and then they just upload stuff straight from that to their website. And the file name is like DSC00396. That doesn't do anything for your SEO. If you actually change the name of the question to like family in kitchen or something like that, again, it's just another relevance thing for Google. And you all are probably aware Google has an image search. So You have to be able to tell Google what's in the picture. Video is the same way. If you have video, put it on your website. Absolutely. Google loves it, especially if you're embedding YouTube because Google owns YouTube. As far as outgoing links go, I think this is something that I see a good bit overdone where people, they feel the need to link out to every little thing. What has worked the best in my experience is that you have a single outgoing link that actually leaves your website. And I would only link out if you're going to link to a site that has a bigger authority than you. This goes back to the prominence thing that we touched on. So an example might be like if I were to link out to the Wikipedia page for Martinsburg. Wikipedia is a far bigger entity than what LovelyPixels is. But by me linking out, I'm creating some sort of connection between the two. So link out one time to a high authority website. If you haven't already, you should get an SSL certificate. I think this is pretty standard now. There may be a few websites still floating around that don't have them, but if you don't, you should definitely get one. Just talk to your hosting provider about how to get it. If you have one, then you will see that you are an HTTPS website instead of just an HTTP. Google has outright said that that helps your rankings, which is why I mention it. And then the last thing here that is super important, what you don't want to do is link away from your page with the keyword that you're trying to rank for. So an example, again, with tennis shoes, if I had a page that was ranking very well for tennis shoes, and at the very end I say, thanks for reading about tennis shoes, learn more about tennis shoes here, that would be basically suicide for that page. Because you're telling Google that the real place to go learn about tennis shoes is over here, not at this page that I'm trying to get ranked. So again, one page to one keyword. So this gets into organizing, and there's a little illustration at the right where you can see that there's a home page, there are main topic pages, which I think for a lot of you are like services that your business offers. Underneath of that is where you would typically see articles and blogs and FAQs. And what you should try to do, I call them silos or pyramids, but you should try to build out sections that are about all the same sort of topic. And I have an example down here below. We have a solar power client that we were just talking with a few weeks ago. So if you're a solar power provider and you have a solar power service page, then one of your subtopic pages could be off-grid solar, right? It's about solar, but you're not like cannibalizing the solar ranking. You're talking about off-grid solar. It's connected, but different. And then if you have a post, you could have a post where maybe it's an FAQ and people want to know, can I heat my water with solar power? So what you're actually going to be doing is taking those posts and linking up to the page above them. And so the can I heat my water with solar, it would link to the off-grid solar. It would also link to the solar power page. And what you're doing is you're creating, again, a silo or a pyramid of relevance around the topic. It's showing Google that you are an authority on that subject. Again, if Google has to choose between you and a competitor, the competitor has one service page, and you have a service page that is supported by 12 different pages that are linking up to it, you're going to win 9 times out of 10 because you have a lot more to offer. You have a bigger sphere of relevance. So write as much as you can about a topic and be smart about your linking. All links should funnel upward to the page that you want to rank at the end of the day. So user experience, this isn't all about the bots, like we said in the beginning. It has to be about the humans also. And so I have a few tips for you to have a little bit better of a user experience. Google is absolutely paying attention to how many people on your website are converting. So if you get 5,000 visits to your site, but none of them call you and none of them fill out the form, it's going to be worth very little. If your competitor gets 100 visitors and 20 of them fill out the form, that's actually worth way more because they converted, and Google can say, okay, the person came to the website and they found what they were looking for. That's what you need to try and do. So just a couple of quick tips here. A lot of website navigations will have something in the beginning that people just don't care about. I say if you look at your Google Analytics and you find out that most people are visiting your services page, put it first on your navigation. You should remove all friction possible. Let people get to that spot on your website that they're looking for. Don't put about us first because maybe they care, but they don't care until they know that you can actually solve their problem. Then they're going to vet you second. Also, your forms should be easy to find. They should be short. Forms are always a double-edged sword, right? If you have a longer form, you can do a better job at qualifying a lead and making sure that they're actually a good fit for your business. A shorter form, though, will get more fills. So you kind of have to find the perfect amount. What I recommend is a short form and maybe breaking it into pieces, right? If you as an individual, you're looking for a service provider, whatever it is, and you see that I have to fill out a form with 50 things in it, I'm probably going to say no thanks. Like that's way too time consuming. But if I start filling it out and then I realize that there's a second page, people are more likely to finish what they've started, and less likely to start something that looks overwhelming. So try and keep your form short and have a good user experience. You should also be concerned with your loading speed. The easiest thing for most people to do to improve the loading speed of their website is just to shrink their images down. If we go back to the example of you, using your cell phone or your digital camera, if you're taking the photos directly from there and putting them on your website, they're probably way too big. If you've ever been to a website and it's loading and you notice that the image like has to load in pieces, it's probably because it hasn't been compressed properly. There are places online where you can do this for free. You upload an image and then it spits it back to you compressed. You can use Photoshop or PaintShop Pro or really any number of pieces of software to do it yourself, but
Sorry,
absolutely
Trent.
you need to.
Just to chime in, Canva, whenever I train clients on web design stuff all the time, I will set them up like a Canva, canvas that is just like 1920 by 1080, and then they can drop their photos in there and export them as PNG, and that will compress it down. So super easy if you're familiar or use Canva.
Thank you for that. And then the last thing here, you need to make sure your website looks good on mobile. Since probably 2016, mobile searches have outweighed desktop searches. It varies. So there are certain types of business where we still see that desktop wins. But for the most part, people are on their phones and they're looking for you. So you need to make sure your website isn't garbage on a mobile device. So I mentioned that Google pays attention to people engaging with your website, calls, filling out forms. You're going to need clear calls to action all throughout your website. I usually recommend that every page on the website, every article you write, every FAQ you write has a clear call to action. And again, if we go back to the silo thing, it links to the ranking page. It has your phone number. It has a link to your contact form. You want to make sure that people don't have any reason to not contact you, because the more people that do, the better that you will rank. And then the better that you will rank, the more people will contact you. There's something in the Google circles called EEAT. It stands for expertise, experience, authority, and trust. You want to make sure that you're giving signals of all of those things on your website. A good trust signal would be like a review from another customer or a testimonial or maybe awards that your business has won or certifications that you have, brand names that you're associated with, like trusted by, and then this brand. All of those things are reasons for a person to stay on the page and then actually carry on with contacting you. So because getting people to convert is so important to SEO, I always recommend a couple of different things. My favorite is probably what I call a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is basically a downloadable offer. It's like a PDF. It has something of value in it. It's not overly branded. It's not like, 10 reasons why you should do business with us. That would be no value. This example at the right is something that we did for one of our clients, which is a local fundraising playbook. So anybody out there in the United States who's planning on putting on some sort of event to raise funds could find value in this playbook. The idea is that they download the playbook, They see the FB Pull Tabs logo, and then there's like, the principle of reciprocity. They feel like, well, if I'm going to go to someone to help me with this, or if I'm going to purchase pull tabs, I'm going to do it through this person because they clearly know what they're talking about. So I just listed out basically a number of reasons why these are good. It allows you, once people actually download this thing, it will allow you to reach out to them later. I'm a big fan of marketing automation. So if you have like HubSpot or ActiveCampaign or something like that, you could connect it in a way that when a person downloads this, it will automatically email them the file, and then it'll follow up with them 3 days later and say, hey, do you have any questions about what you downloaded? If you do, call this number and talk to Trent or whoever it is. Then you could email them 2 weeks later, and then maybe a month later. It's just a way to keep your brand in front of them. It also is going to protect you against an excessive amount of people bouncing away from the site. So one of the technical things that we deal with in marketing is that there is sort of a whole customer journey, right? And a lot of people we work with, they're looking for the customers that are at the point in the journey where they're ready to buy, right? Like they're ready to buy today. I want to talk to those people. The problem is you're going to get visits from people that are not ready to buy. And in order to make the most out of them, it sure would be great to get their information, right? A lot of people who are not ready to buy, they might come and do research and leave without you even knowing who they are. But if you have an offer like this, where all they have to do is give you their email and their name and they can download it, now you have them. Now they're a lead. And if it's a month or 6 months or 18 months down the road where they make the purchase, you have them and you can keep your brand in front of them. And then, of course, I mentioned by branding the document, you're going to be positioning yourself as an authority, which is great. And I mentioned the principle of reciprocity. You're giving them something free. Therefore, they may feel inclined to give you something in return. So this is probably, if you only walk away with one thing today, this would probably be what I would want you to remember. In SEO, if you're totally lost, overwhelmed, you should always just use your competition as a guide. This is so powerful. So go to Google, search for the keyword that you want to rank for, find out who's ranking, and then figure out what they're doing that is different than you or better than you. And then all you have to do really is mimic that or do a better job than they're doing at what they're doing already. And I have some examples over here of things that I take into account whenever I'm doing these like deeper competitor comparisons. So there's something online called the Hemingway editor. Basically, you can like upload a chunk of copy to it and it'll tell you the reading level and like if you have any incomplete sentences. You could take a chunk of copy from your homepage and a chunk of copy from your competitor's homepage and upload both of them to the Hemingway editor. What you might find out is that Google prefers an 8th grade reading level to maybe an 11th grade reading level, which is what you typed up for your website. So maybe you just need to simplify things. You also want to look into word count. You can use Google's natural language API. If you just go and Google that right now, there's a demo that is free to use on their website. If, again, you plug in copy for you and your competitor, it's going to give you a sentiment analysis. It's also going to give you sort of a, how confident they are what the copy is actually about. So another opportunity for you to compare. There are services, I like TextRaiser, but they will actually go through your copy and figure out salience or topic weight. And you might write something that you think is about a certain topic, but TextRaiser and Google might think that, well, you're actually talking about this other thing, right? You might find that your competitor is doing a better job and that you just need to change the structure of your sentences a little bit. Of course, keyword repetition, how many photos, how many videos, how many videos, how many photos. Your mobile page speed, there's something called the Google Mobile Friendly tool. You can go and Google that also. You plug your URL into it, it's going to give you a score. Ideally, your score is going to be better than your competition. And then also a statement of intent, I think, is really important. Particularly the AI-powered stuff has a tendency to fluff the content in the beginning and not really have anything of value. I like to start content by, in many cases, just outright offering or asking a question and saying, are you looking for tennis shoes, right? Are you looking for steaks and milkshakes? If you are, you're in the right place. The reason why that's nice is because Google can take that first sentence and what the person's searching for and make an exact match without having to scroll to the third paragraph to figure out what is this content actually about. So 22 minutes over, that's not terrible, but that is what I wanted to share with you all today. So I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.